And Las Vegas! I can't hear you! Las Vegas! Thank you, everybody. Can we please hear it for all of our incredible speakers today that you all just heard? And what you've heard all tonight is people courageously sharing their stories of choice. Their stories of choice and pursuing the effort of transforming their pain into a greater purpose. These people that you just heard from are brave. They are strong. And what they are doing tonight in sharing their story of choice, and what anybody does in sharing their story of choice, is nothing short of heroic. Now, I want to talk a little bit with you all tonight about why I'm here in Nevada and why we're all here today. This week marks the 2-year anniversary of the catastrophic Dobbs decision. 2 years since 6 conservative justices toppled Roe v. Wade. Since our right to choose was taken from us, and pregnant women and people across the country have had their lives at risk. It's been 2 years since our freedom over our bodies was seized by the most corrupt Supreme Court in American history. And that court itself was appointed by the most corrupt president in American history, Donald Trump. And it is precisely because of Donald Trump and his corrupt court that women and girls and pregnant people have less rights today in 2024 than our parents and grandparents did. And we will not stand for that. And Nevada, I will tell you, and I know you already know, that if he wins in November, you better believe Donald Trump and a Republican Congress will pass a national abortion ban. Now, that alone is enormous reason why it is crucial that we re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as President and Vice President of the United States. As we've heard from so many of the powerful speakers who shared their lives with us tonight, we all have our story of choice. Whether you have a child, whether you don't have a child, whether you struggle to or cannot conceive, every single one of us has our story of choice, of deciding what we want for our lives. And in many ways, we choose every day. And tonight, when I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you all, I decided that tonight I wanted to share with you my family's story of choice. When my mom was 26 years old, she had just recently moved to New York City from Puerto Rico, shortly after marrying my dad. Now, both of my parents grew up in extraordinary poverty. And in the Bronx, they lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And my mom learned English while she and my dad worked to try to make ends meet. They dreamed of building a life, a better life, and a family together. And one day, my mom walked into a Planned Parenthood for an exam. And it was on that day that the clinic worker pulled up an ultrasound on the screen to show her that she was, in fact, pregnant. And it was in that clinic, looking at that screen, taking stock of everything before her and what she wanted, that my mom chose me. But it was her choice, not a court's, not a lobbyist's, not a politician's. It was hers. And it was Planned Parenthood that held her hand and supported my parents in their decision, irrespective of their income. And so in some ways, I like to joke that I am a Planned Parenthood baby. And over 20 years later, I then had my own story of choice. I was very blessed with a loving childhood. My family didn't have the most growing up, but we had each other, and that's what mattered. I did my best in school and was one of the first in my mom's family to go to college. But after years of my family working tirelessly and striving, tragedy struck. My dad was diagnosed with a very rare form of lung cancer when I was in high school. He didn't smoke, and it was largely just, it confounded the doctors. And a few short years later, he passed away while I was in the middle of college. And overnight, my mom became a single mother of two. And we did the best we could, but without my dad, we couldn't afford to keep our house much longer. And all of a sudden, strangers and people from the bank, we think, started pulling up in front of our house and taking pictures of it and driving away. Because we were going to be foreclosed on. And I started waitressing around this time to make ends meet. It was what worked for me and for my family. I could take home cash every day. I could pick up double shifts. I could scrap as much as I could to do what I needed to do. And it was around this time that I experienced sexual assault. I never told anyone what happened. I kept it totally bottled up inside. It was the biggest secret of my life. But there was no erasing the fact that it happened. I was terrified, confused, disgusted, depressed, but I still clocked in and out of work every day with the smile that working in restaurants and hospitality demands. But I was alone. I was completely alone. And I was late. Absolutely overwhelmed. I went to the pharmacy to pick up a pregnancy test, and I pulled out the cash tips from my bag from the night before in order to pay for it. I ran to the bathroom, and with my hands shaking around the instructions and the stick, I took the test and set the timer to 3 minutes. And what happened in those 3 minutes transformed my perspective and my life. And if any of you have had to wait those 3 minutes, you know it transforms yours too. I was absolutely terrified at what lay before me. I was wrestling with the trauma of the event that led me to that place just weeks prior, an assault that I would not be ready to tell anyone about for years. But most importantly, in that moment, in those 3 minutes, one crystal clear and beaming thought rang through. Thank God I have a choice. I am so grateful that I get to choose. After so much that was beyond my control, the medical bills from my dad's cancer, losing our family house after losing him, the violation of my own consent, at least in this, I had agency. I had the choice. I had freedom to exercise over my own destiny. And while I didn't know what I would choose in that moment, I knew that I could choose. I knew that the choice itself would be mine and mine alone. Not a court's, not a lobbyist, not a politician, and certainly not Donald Trump's. It was mine. And when that 3-minute timer rang up, after what seemed like an eternity, you all know, I pulled out that test and I took a look. And it was negative. That was one choice I did not end up having to make. But if I did have to make that choice, it would have been past the time of many of these 6-week abortion bans rolling across the country as we speak. But I did make one choice that day. In those 3 minutes, I decided that for the rest of my life, I would stand up for reproductive freedom and justice for all people in this country. Now, I know, sadly, due to the prevalence of assault, that there are many here who may share similar stories. Perhaps you haven't even told anyone yet. And many of you may share entirely different ones. But the one thing that binds us in this room today, here today, is the understanding that reproductive freedom is an inviolable human right. And we must stop at nothing until it is established and codified as the law of the land. And I want to let you all know we must be crystal clear, because the next battleground is November. It is November. It's Nevada. It's defeating Donald Trump and electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And we cannot stop there. It's also in electing an overwhelmingly Democratic House and Senate and re-electing Jackie Rosen too. It's in chasing corruption out of our courts and our politics. And it is in the strength of allyship, solidarity, and commitment to freedom and sisterhood across lines of race, class, and creed that we will organize and we will succeed. So Las Vegas, I want you all to take a good look around this room tonight. I want you to wave or say hello to someone you don't know in this room tonight. I'm gonna give you a minute to do it.
We love you.
We love you too. And I want you to do that because I'm gonna tell you something. The people, you all, us in this room tonight, we are the people who are going to save American democracy. We are going to be fighting shoulder to shoulder next to one another for the next 5 months and beyond. So buckle up.
That's right.
Nevada, women's rights and reproductive freedom are on the ballot here in this state and across the country. This room is the front line. And one more thing. Governance, democracy, it relies on the consent of the governed. And I have a message for this conservative court and to Donald J. Trump. We do not consent. The women and people of this state do not consent. And the women and people of this country certainly do not consent to Donald Trump.
That's right.
Nor this corrupt court that he has enabled.
He's a gangster.
Because he is a gangster, not in a good way either. And we are the front line of our democracy. We will have our day. We will write our story. And we will have the right to choose, not just with our bodies, but at the ballot box too, this November. And the only way that Republicans will get this message is when the people of this country decisively elect majorities in Congress, re-elect Jackie Rosen, and again, re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala. This is not a game, Las Vegas. Every single one of us has our story of choice. Everyone. Of looking at a crossroads and deciding how we want to proceed, of choosing and taking control of our own lives. Whether it's contraception, IVF, abortion, family planning, or any or none of the above. These are our essential freedoms that unlock agency over our lives, and it is up to us to defend them, to restore them, and to codify them as the law of this land. They have given us no other choice but to win. Thank you very much, Las Vegas.